Section 101 of An Outline of Universal History. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by BettyB. The World's Story, Volume 14, An Outline of Universal History by Karl Ploetz, translated by William H. Tillinghast. Section 101. Part 12, Leading Events, 1904 to 1914. 1904, March 14th, the United States Supreme Court pronounced the merger of the Northern Pacific Railroad and the Great Northern Railroad in the Northern Securities Company illegal, the first result of an attempt by the government to check, under the Sherman Act, the development of combinations of capital in place of competition. April 8th, Anglo-French Treaty. France recognized the position of Great Britain in Egypt, and Great Britain the special interests of France in Morocco. France abandoned her exclusive fishery rights on the French shore in Newfoundland under the Treaty of Utrecht, 1713, receiving an indemnity and territorial concessions in Senegambia and Nigeria. Great Britain withdrew her protests against the French customs regime in Madagascar. Delimitation of spheres of influence in Siam. Differences in the New Hebrides to be settled by a special agreement. Convention of October 20th, 1906. April 9th. Death of Isabella II, former Queen of Spain. April 24th to the 30th. President Loubet visited the King of Italy, ignoring the Pope, who protested to the powers. French ambassador to the Vatican withdrawn. May 21st. May 1st. The Japanese under Kuroki, having occupied Korea, defeated the Russians at the Yalu River. May 21st to 26th. Oku won the battles of Kinchau and Nanshan. Dalny occupied May 29th. Noji began the siege of Port Arthur. Three armies moving northward, united under Marshal Oyama, and defeated the Russians at Liaoyang, August 25th to September 4th. Kuropatkin withdrew in good order to Mukden. 1904, July 8th. Law forbidding all teaching by religious orders in France for 10 years. July 14th. Death of ex-President Kruger of the Transvaal in Switzerland, buried at Pretoria, December 16th. August 12th. Birth of an heir to the Tsar of Russia, Alexis. August 13th. On the arrival of American warships, the Sultan of Turkey granted the claims of the United States as to treatment of their citizens and schools. August 29th. Death of Murad V, former Sultan of Turkey. September 7th. Anglo-Tibetan Treaty signed at Lhasa, where the British mission arrived August 3rd after armed resistance. Tibet to open 3 trade marts, not to grant territorial concessions to foreign powers, nor to admit their representatives or agents. The treaty was ratified by China and, after a protest, acknowledged by Russia, August 31st, 1907. September 16th. Birth of an heir to the King of Italy, Umberto. October 9th through the 18th. Russian advance repulsed at the Sshoger. October 22nd. The Russian fleet under Rastravenski, starting for the east, fired on English trawlers in the North Sea, killing 2 men. After detention of the fleet at Vigo, war was averted by reference of the matter to an international commission, which reported, February 25, 1905, that the firing was, in point of fact, unjustifiable, no torpedo boats being present. £65,000 paid. After a siege lasting from May 1904 and marked by very severe fighting. Port Arthur was surrendered by Stoessel with 41,000 men, over 500 guns, and much ammunition and provisions. January 2nd, 1905. January 18th to the 24th. Cabinet crisis in France on account of the espionage, délation, scandal in the army. Rouvier succeeded Combe. January 22nd. In St. Petersburg, a large body of strikers marching to the Winter Palace, led by Father Gapon, to present a petition to the Tsar, were fired upon and many killed. Red Sunday. February 12th. The United States Senate amended the arbitration treaties signed with the European nations and Mexico so as to require a special treaty for each case of arbitration. The administration thereupon declined to present the treaties. February 20th to March 9th. The Russians defeated in a great battle at Mukden by the 5 Japanese armies, Kuroki, Oku, Noji, Nodzu, Kawamura, under Oyama. Kuropatkin superseded by Lenievich. 1905, March 4th to 1909. Theodore Roosevelt, President of the United States. C.W. Fairbanks, Vice President. At the elections, November 8, 1904, the Republicans had 336 electoral votes. The Democrats, A.B. Parker, H.G. Davis, 140. Popular majority, 2,541,635. March 31st. The German Emperor visited the Sultan of Morocco at Tangier. April 4th. Violent earthquake in northern India. 20,000 killed. 1905, April 27th. The United States purchased the Panama Canal property of the French company. May 27th through 29th. Naval Battle of Tsushima Straits. The Russian fleet of 32 vessels annihilated by the Japanese under Togo. May 28th. The Sultan of Morocco rejected the French reform proposals and asked for a conference of the powers. After the June 6th resignation of Delcasse, the French foreign minister, France and Germany agreed to the suggestion. June. Dissension in the management of the Equitable Life Assurance Society in New York led to the disclosure of grave irregularities in the conduct of the affairs of the great insurance companies. The report of the Armstrong Investigating Committee, February 21, 1906, resulted in more stringent legislative regulation, and similar action was taken in other states, sometimes with undue severity. June 7th. The King of Sweden, refusing to sign an act establishing separate Norwegian consulates, the Norwegian ministry resigned and no one would accept office, whereupon the Norwegian Storthing voted that the union between Norway and Sweden had been dissolved, since the King of Sweden had acknowledged himself unable to form a Norwegian ministry and could not discharge his constitutional functions. July 1st. Death of John Hay, Secretary of State of the United States. Elihu Root succeeded him. July. Chinese boycott of American goods as a protest against the application of the Exclusion Act to merchants and scholars. July 24th. The body of John Paul Jones, discovered at Paris, April 14th, was received at Annapolis. August 11th. Executive Committee appointed by Parliament in accordance with the report of the Elgin Commission, April 19th, to apportion the property claimed by the Free Church and the United Free Church of Scotland. August 12th. Anglo-Japanese alliance renewed for 10 years. To secure peace in the East and the independence and integrity of China with equal commercial rights for all nations. Special interests of Japan in Korea and of Great Britain on the Indian frontier recognized. Each nation to assist the other in case of war in defense of territorial rights in the East. August 21st. The Earl of Minto, Viceroy of India, Lord Curzon, resigned August 12th in consequence of the decision of the Home Government in favor of the proposals of Lord Kitchener, Commander-in-Chief, concerning the military administration in India. In Russia, strikes, riots, and assassinations continued. Mutinies at Odessa, etc. Increasing dissatisfaction over the war. Difficulties in securing new loans. On August 19th, the Tsar announced that a representative assembly, Duma, would be summoned. September 5th. Treaty of peace between Japan and Russia signed at Portsmouth Navy Yard after a conference which began August 5th. Russia acknowledged Japan's paramount interest in Korea, transferred to Japan the lease of Port Arthur and the railroad to Changchun, and ceded the southern half of Sakhalin, Manchuria, to be evacuated by both powers and restored to China. On account of the failure to obtain an indemnity, the treaty was unpopular in Japan. Riots in Tokyo. September 24th. Treaty of Separation signed by Sweden and Norway after a referendum in Norway. August. 368,208 for separation, 184 against. A Congress of Russian Provincial Assemblies, Zemstvos, having declared September 25th in favor of a broader basis of representation and a general strike following. October 30th. The Tsar granted an extension of the franchise, the necessary approval of laws by the Duma, and inviolability of person, freedom of conscience, speech, and association. Count Witt, Prime Minister. October 30th. Report of the Commission appointed by the King of Belgium to inquire into conditions in the Congo Free State. The work of the state commended, but some abuses admitted and reforms suggested in the treatment of the natives. November 4th. The Tsar restored the Constitution of Finland as it existed prior to 1899. November 17th. Japan secured, by treaty, control of the foreign relations of Korea. Marquis Ito, Resident General. Japanese abuses. November 27th. Prince Charles, grandson of King of Denmark, took the oath as Hakon VII, King of Norway. 1905 through X, crowned June 22, 1906. December 4th. Resignation of Mr. Balfour, English Prime Minister. Liberal ministry formed under Sir Harry Campbell Bannerman. Mr. Asquith, Exchequer. John Morley, Lord Morley in 1908. India. Sir Edward Grey, Foreign. James Bryce, Ireland, afterward Ambassador to the United States. John Burns, Local Government Board. A. Burrell, Board of Education, afterwards Ireland. December 9th. Law for the separation of church and state in France. The Concordat of 1802 abrogated, and control of the state over the choice of bishops thereby ended. All payments for support of public worship, Catholic, Protestant, or Jewish, ceased, but diminishing pensions were granted. Churches and other ecclesiastical buildings remained the property of the state, but were to be loaned gratuitously to boards of public worship, associations cultuelles, to be formed by adherents of the several faiths. 1906, January 29, death of Christian IX, King of Denmark. His son succeeded as Frederick VIII, 1906 through X. February to July, insurrection of the natives in Natal. February 13th, Second 28th Imperial Parliament of Edward VII. The elections following the dissolution of January 8th returned 376 liberals, 130 conservatives, 83 nationalists, 54 labor, 27 liberal unionists. 1906, February 17th. Follier elected President of France. On March 12th, a new ministry was formed under Serrion. Bourgeois, Foreign, Clemenceau, Interior, Briand, Public Instruction. April 5th through the 12th. Violent and destructive eruptions of Vesuvius. The Conference on Morocco, which met at Algeciras in Spain, January 16th, included the chief European powers and the United States. On April 7th, a convention was signed. A police force for coast towns to be established under French and Spanish instructors and a Swiss inspector general. International State Bank founded. Freedom of trade and settlement for foreigners. Germany did not insist on equality of footing with France. April 5th. Act reorganizing the United States Consular Service. April 18th through the 21st. Earthquake and fire at San Francisco. The greater portion of the city destroyed. April 21st. A new record of farthest north was made by R.E. Peary at 87 degrees 6 minutes. May 6th, general election in France resulting in a large majority for the government. May, United States Congress adopted plans for a Locke Canal for Panama. Work began at once under the Special Canal Commission. In April 1907, it was placed in charge of Army engineers. May 10th through July 22nd, First Russian Duma, 524 deputies, about 200 constitutional Democrats, and 125 independents, peasants, formed the left. Uremikin, Prime Minister, May 2nd. The insistence of the Duma on a general amnesty, responsible ministers, and compulsory expropriation of land for the peasants led to a dissolution. Stolypin, Prime Minister. On July 23rd, a manifesto advocating non-payment of taxes and refusal to enter the army, signed at Viborg in Finland by about 200 members of the Duma, who were later tried and condemned therefor. Despite government measures for agrarian relief, mutinies, strikes, riots, Moscow, December 21st, massacres of Jews, Bialystok, June 14th, and peasant outrages prevailed until forcibly controlled. Field courts-martial, famine. May 30th, formal opening of the Simplon Tunnel, the longest in the world, 12 1/4 miles. May 31st, marriage of Alfonso XIII, King of Spain, and Princess Victoria of Battenberg. Attempt at assassination. June 1st, Synod of French bishops, the first held since the Revolution. June 29th, railway rate set in the United States. Hepburn Act. Interstate Commerce Commission given power to fix rates for interstate traffic of railroads, pipelines, and express companies. Appeals to the courts allowed. June 30th, Pure Food and Drugs Act and Meat Inspection Act in the United States. July 12th, the French Court of Cassation reversed the decision of the Rennes Tribunal in the Dreyfus case. Dreyfus restored to his rank and promoted. Picard also promoted. 1906, July 23rd to August 27th. Third International Conference of American States at Rio de Janeiro. Drago Doctrine against forcible collection of debts referred to the Second Hague Conference. Secretary Root attended and afterwards visited other South American countries. August 10th, Papal Encyclical. French Catholics not permitted to form Association Cultuelle. Protestants and Jews conform to the law. August 13th through 14th, Negro troops at Brownsville, Texas, fired on townspeople. The discharge of a battalion by order of the President for conspiracy of silence caused much discussion in Congress. August 13th, Captain Roald Amundsen reached Nome after a 3 years expedition in search of the magnetic pole, having made the Northwest Passage for the first time by sea. August 16th through the 17th, destructive earthquake in Chile. An insurrection August in Cuba resulting from dissatisfaction over the re-election of President Palma led to the landing of troops and the establishment of a provisional government by the United States. Governor Magoon. September 29th. October 7th, meeting of the First National Representative Assembly in Persia. October, the segregation of Japanese children in the public schools in San Francisco led to strained relations between the United States and Japan and between the city and federal government. Upon the inclusion in the new immigration law, February 20th, 1907, of restrictions on the immigration of Japanese laborers, the rule was rescinded. March. October 21st, Clemenceau Ministry in France. Piquart, War. November 8th through the 26th, President Roosevelt visited the Canal Zone. At Panama, President of the United States for the first time outside its jurisdiction. November, the Chinese government issued a decree ordering the growth and importation of opium to be diminished 10% annually for 10 years, and restricting opium smoking. During 1906 to 1907, reforms in education in China, creation of a new army. November 25th, Russian peasants granted ownership of allotments received at the time of emancipation, unpaid dues remitted. The peasants had been previously released from the control of the communes, and much land had been sold to them. December 12th, Constitution granted the Transvaal, bicameral legislature, manhood suffrage for whites. December 20th, English Education Bill abandoned, the Commons refusing to accept the Lords' amendments. The intention of the bill was to make rate-supported schools, undenominational, while providing moral teaching and opportunity for denominational instruction where desired. December 21st, Universal manhood suffrage in Austria. December 21st, Trades Disputes Act in England exempts trade union funds from liability for damages committed during a strike, thus reversing the Taff-Vale decision. 1907, January 8th through 1909, Muhammad Ali Mirza, Shah of Persia, on the death of his father, Muzaffar ad-Din. January 25th to February 5th, elections for the German Reichstag, which was dissolved December 15th after rejecting the grants asked for the war in German Southwest Africa. The Social Democrats lost 39 of their 82 seats, though their total vote was not reduced. February, treaty between the United States and San Domingo ratified. The United States to collect customs revenues and pay foreign claims on basis of the agreement of February 1905. In the United States, during the spring and summer, many states enlarged the powers of railroad commissions, regulated the hours of employees, and fixed passenger rates at 2 to 2½ cents per mile. Conflicts with the federal courts. The general government brought numerous prosecutions for rebating. Investigation of the Harriman roads. March 5th to June 16th. Second Russian Duma. Proving equally radical with the first, it was dissolved. April. Land fraud scandal in the United States. Since 1902, the government had been tracing the fraudulent acquisitions of public lands. Many suits were brought and some convictions obtained. April 5th. At the elections for the Legislative Assembly in Finland, 19 women chosen as deputies. May through July. Agitation by wine growers in the south of France secures legislation against adulteration and sugaring of wine. May 7th. Irish Council Bill introduced in Parliament. It placed the administration of Ireland in the hands of an elective body, allowing a veto to the Lord Lieutenant. Being unsatisfactory to the Nationalists, it was withdrawn. June 3rd. May 9th. Trial of Haywood, Secretary of the Western Federation of Miners, who, with the President, was indicted for the murder of ex-Governor Steunenberg of Idaho. Acquitted July 28th. Startling testimony as to violence during the Colorado strikes of 1903 to 1904. May 10th. Birth of a son and heir to the King of Spain. June 15th to October 18th. Second International Peace Conference at The Hague. 44 states represented. Korea not received. Further restrictions were placed on naval and land warfare in the interests of non-combatants and neutrals. International Prize Court established. Court of Appeal. England and the United States reserved assent. The establishment of a court of arbitral justice was advocated by the United States and recommended by the conference, which could not agree on a plan for the choice of judges. Forcible collection of debts to be allowed only after failure of arbitration. July 19th. Abdication of the Emperor of Korea in favor of his son. Japan obtained by treaty a protectorate over Korea. July 25th. July 30th to August 5th. Several Europeans killed in an outbreak at Casablanca in Morocco. The French bombarded the town and landed troops. 1907, August 3rd. Fine of $29,240,000 imposed by a federal court on the Standard Oil Company of Indiana for receiving rebate. Reversed on appeal July 22, 1908. August 6th, the state of Georgia adopted a Prohibition Act. Similar legislation in Alabama, December, Mississippi, February 1908, North Carolina, May 1908, constitutional prohibition in Oklahoma. August 16th, Muley Hafid, brother of the Sultan of Morocco, proclaimed Sultan at Marrakesh. Civil War. The new Sultan, though opposed by the French, gradually obtained control of the greater part of the country. August 28th, Parliament passes an act, retroactive, legalizing marriage with a deceased wife's sister. August 31st, Anglo-Russian Convention. Russia to have commercial control in the northern half of Persia, Great Britain in the southern half. Great Britain agrees not to annex Afghanistan nor to alter the government. Russia acknowledges that country to be outside her sphere of influence. Russia recognizes the Anglo-Tibetan Treaty. October 16th, opening of the first Philippine Legislative Assembly. October 17, wireless telegraph service opened between Cape Breton and Ireland. October 22nd, panic in New York. The financial disturbances which began in March, followed by shortage of currency throughout the country, commercial depression. November 14th, Third Russian Duma, elected under a new decree. Number of deputies 442. Poles, Caucasians, etc. reduced. The influence of landed proprietors and privileged classes largely increased. The Duma, however, resolves that the Tsar has divested himself of his autocratic power. November 16th, Oklahoma united with the Indian Territory, 46th state of the United States. November 30th, loss of the successful French war balloon La Patrie marked development in 1906 to 1908 of dirigible balloons and aeroplanes. 1907, December 8th through X. Gustav V, King of Sweden, succeeds on the death of his father, Oscar II. December 16th, the United States fleet sailed on a cruise to the Pacific coast and around the world. December 20th, Treaty of Peace and 7 conventions between the Central American states signed at Washington. Central American Court of Justice established. 1908, February 1st, Carlos I, King of Portugal, and the Crown Prince assassinated. The second son of Carlos succeeded as Manuel II, 1908 through X. April the 5th, resignation of Sir Henry Campbell Bannerman. Died April 22nd. Mr. Asquith became Prime Minister. 1908, April 23rd, North Sea Treaty between Germany, Great Britain, Holland, Sweden, and Denmark. Baltic Sea Treaty between Germany, Russia, Sweden, and Denmark. May 13th, United States, Conference of Governors of the States at Washington on the Conservation of National Resources. May 25th, the United States remitted its claim to $13 million of the Chinese boxer indemnity. June, Civil War in Persia between the Shah and the Parliament. June 18th through 19th, Republican Convention in the United States, Chicago, nominated W.H. Taft, Ohio, for President and J.S. Sherman, New York, for Vice President. June 24th, death of Grover Cleveland, ex-President of the United States. July 10th, Democratic Convention at Denver nominated W.J. Bryan, Nebraska, for President and J.W. Kern, Indiana, for Vice President. July 25th, the Irish Universities Bill passed in the House of Commons. 2 universities without religious tests created in Ireland. July 30th, Old Age Pensions Act in Great Britain. It is supposed to affect 500,000 persons. July 24th, the Sultan of Turkey proclaimed the restoration of the Constitution of 1876 and ordered the assembling of a Chamber of Deputies elected by the people. A peaceful revolution by the Young Turks. October 1st, 2-cent postal rate between the United States and Great Britain. October 5th, the independence of Bulgaria proclaimed by Prince Ferdinand. October 7th, the Emperor of Austro-Hungary asserted rights of sovereignty and succession in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Popular Assembly in Crete proclaimed union with Greece. Negotiations looking toward a European conference. November 3rd, United States presidential election. Taft chosen, 321 electoral votes to 162. November 15th, death of the Emperor of China, Quanzhou, and of the Empress Dowager announced. November 30th, agreement between the United States and Japan. 1908, December 2nd through X. Xuan Tong, Emperor of China, P.E., 3 years old, son of the Regent Prince, Chung. December 17th, opening of the Turkish Parliament. December 17th through 19th, in Venezuela, President Cipriano Castro, 1899 to 1908, who had suspended intercourse with nearly all foreign countries, deposed, while in Europe, in favor of Juan Vicente Gomez. December 28th, destructive earthquake in Sicily and Calabria. 1909, January 28th, President Gomez inaugurated in Cuba. United States provisional government ceases. 1909, March 4th to 1913, William Howard Taft, 26th. Footnote: if Mr. Cleveland's second term were counted, Mr. Taft would be the 27th president. End of footnote. President of the United States, J.S. Sherman, Vice President. April 6th, the North Pole reached by R.E. Peary, U.S. Navy. Announcement made September 6th. Revolt in Turkey against Young Turks suppressed. Abdul Hamid II deposed. His brother, Mohammed V, Sultan. 1909, April 27th through X. Massacres of Armenian Christians. 1909, July 16th through X. Sultan Ahmad, Shah of Persia, his father, Muhammad Ali, deposed. July 20th, in France, Monsieur Briand, premier in place of Monsieur Clemenceau. August 5th, in the United States, new Payne-Aldrich Tariff Act. Few changes downward, hides free. Free trade with Philippines. Tariff Board. The act unpopular in the Middle West. Insurgents. November 15th, Indian Councils Act operative in India. Powers of legislative councils increased, and a minority of members directly elective. Separate electorate for Mohammedans. 1909, December 17th through X. Albert I, King of the Belgians, on the death of his uncle Leopold II. In England, the House of Lords having rejected Mr. Lloyd George's budget, Lord Lansdowne's motion, November 30th, which increased taxes on wealth and introduced new taxes on land, general valuation, Parliament was dissolved, and the Third 29th Imperial Parliament of Edward VII, February 21st, 1910, opened with Unionist gains, 275 Unionists, 273 Liberals, but a government majority of 124. Resolve of the Commons that the Lords' veto should be limited. The budget received royal assent April 29th. On May 6th, Edward VII died and was succeeded by his son, George V, 1910 to X. May 31st, Union of South Africa, Cape Colony, Natal, Transvaal, Orange Free State inaugurated. August 22nd, Japan annexes Korea. September 7th, the International Court of Arbitration gives its decision in the Newfoundland fisheries case between the United States and Great Britain. October 3rd, the new Chinese Senate opened. October 5th, revolution in Portugal. King Manuel dethroned, a republic established. November, state elections in the United States. Great democratic gains. November 28th, British Parliament dissolved. The elections returned 272 Unionists and 272 Liberals. Government majority 126. December 10th. Population of the United States, exclusive of the Philippines, announced as 93,402,151. 13th Census. 1911, February 22nd. British House of Commons passed bill substituting a suspensory veto for the absolute veto of the House of Lords. This act provides that if a bill passes the Commons in 3 successive sessions, it may become law in spite of adverse action by the Lords. Veto bill accepted by House of Lords August 10th. May 25th. President Porfirio Diaz of Mexico resigned as the result of a revolution, and Minister de la Vera was inaugurated provisional president. Francisco I. Madero Jr. elected president October 1st and inaugurated November 6th. June 13th. W. Morgan Schuster, an American, given full control of Persia's finances. The deposed Shah attacked Tehran July 30th but was defeated. December 24th. Schuster was removed in compliance with the demand of Russia. August 2nd. Arbitration treaty signed between the United States and Great Britain and between the United States and France. September 29th. Italy declared war on Turkey. October 5th. Tripoli captured by an Italian fleet after a bombardment of several days. October. Chinese insurrection against the Manchu dynasty in full progress. Nanking taken by insurgents December 2nd. November 3rd. France ceded to Germany a portion of the French Congo in exchange for a free hand in Morocco. December 14th. Captain Roald Amundsen, Norwegian, reached the South Pole. December 29th. Outer Mongolia declared itself independent of China and formed a separate government. 1912, January 2nd. A provisional republican government for China established at Nanking with Sun Yat-sen as president. February 12th. The Emperor of China abdicated and the republic assumed control. February 15th. Yuan Shi-kai elected provisional president by the National Assembly. March 10th. Yuan inaugurated and general amnesty proclaimed. January 6th. New Mexico admitted to the Union as the 47th state. January 18th. Captain R. P. Scott of the British Navy reached the South Pole. Perished of cold and starvation with the remaining members of his party March 29th. February 14th. Arizona admitted to the Union as the 48th state. February 22nd. Italy annexed Tripoli by Act of Parliament. February 29th. Coal miners' strike in Great Britain. 1 million men left their work. The passage of an act fixing a minimum wage for coal miners brought about the end of the strike early in April. March 7th. Discovery of South Pole, December 14th, 1911, announced by Amundsen. April. Floods in Mississippi Valley left 30,000 persons homeless and occasioned a property loss of $50 million. April 15th. The steamship Titanic sank in mid-ocean after striking an iceberg late in the evening of the 14th. 1,503 persons drowned, including a number of well-known men, 703 saved. May 13th. Constitutional amendment providing for direct election of United States senators by the people passed Congress. 1912. May 14th through X. Christian X, King of Denmark, succeeded on the death of his father, Frederick VIII. June 22nd. President Taft and Vice President Sherman renominated by the Republican National Convention at Chicago. Unsatisfied element withdrew from convention and the Progressive Party was organized, which in a convention at Chicago August 7th nominated Theodore Roosevelt and Hiram W. Johnson, California. July 2nd, Democratic Convention nominated Woodrow Wilson, New Jersey, for president, and July 3rd, Thomas R. Marshall, Indiana, for vice president. November 5th, Wilson and Marshall were elected and a Democratic majority of the House of Representatives. July 15th, State insurance went into effect in Great Britain. 1912, July 30th through X. Yoshihito succeeded to the imperial throne of Japan on the death of his father Mutsuhito. August 9th, Sultan Mulai Hafid of Morocco abdicated. October 8th, discontent with Turkish rule in Macedonia culminated in a declaration of war against Turkey by Montenegro. Bulgaria, Serbia, and Greece joined Montenegro as allies, and October 9th, the Allies invaded Turkish territory. After severe defeats by the Bulgarians at Kirk Kilisse and Lule Burgos, Turkey appealed to the powers November 3rd for intervention, and an armistice was signed December 3rd, ending one of the bloodiest wars in history. October 15th, Treaty of Lausanne between Italy and Turkey, Tripoli ceded to Italy. October 16th, Felix Diaz rebelled against the Madero government in Mexico and took possession of Vera Cruz. Being defeated, he surrendered October 23rd and was imprisoned. 1913, January 1st, parcel post system instituted in the United States. February 9th, Felix Diaz released from prison by Mexican revolutionists. His partisans took President Madero prisoner February 18th and proclaimed Victoriano Huerta provisional president. February 23rd, Madero was killed while attempting escape. February 10th, news of the death on March 29th, 1912, of Captain Robert F. Scott on his return from the South Pole was brought to New Zealand. 1913, February 18th through X. Raymond Poincaré, President of the French Republic, elected January 17th. February 25th, the 16th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States empowering Congress to lay and collect income taxes was declared in force, having been ratified by the requisite number of states. March 4th, President Taft signed bill creating the Department of Labor. 1913, March 4th through X. Woodrow Wilson, 27th President of the United States. Thomas R. Marshall, Vice President. March 18th, King George of Greece assassinated at Salonika, the Crown Prince succeeding as Constantine, King of Greece. 1913, March 18th through X. 1913, March and April. Serious floods in Ohio Valley. Loss of 454 lives and $350 million in Ohio. April 1st. Turkey accepted terms of peace proposed by the powers. After long discussion on the part of the Balkan allies, the treaty was signed May 30th. May 31st. The 17th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, providing for direct election of senators by the people, was declared in force, having been duly ratified by the states. July 8th. Disputes over the division of Macedonia among the Balkan allies having led to acts of hostility between Bulgaria and the others. Serbia declared war against Bulgaria. Bulgaria withdrew her troops from the disputed territory July 10th, and on July 17th, sued for peace with Romania, which had invaded her territory on the north and east. July 20th, the Turks took and reoccupied Adrianople, which they were permitted by the powers to retain. August 10th, peace between the Balkan states signed at Bucharest. This Second Balkan War remarkable for its atrocities. An international commission investigating on the ground reported in 1914, placing the blame for these upon Bulgaria, Serbia, and Greece in equal proportions. The reorganization of the Balkan states made Albania independent under an international commission of control. Crete was ceded to Greece, Macedonia was divided among Greece, Serbia, and Bulgaria, and Romania gained a strip from the northwest of Bulgaria. Prince William of Wied was chosen ruler of Albania with the title of Empret equals Imperator. September 17th, agreement between Bulgaria and Turkey by which the latter retains Adrianople, Kirk Kilisse, and Demotika. September 28th, treaty between Bulgaria and Turkey signed at Constantinople. October 3rd, the Underwood Tariff Act went into effect on its signature by the President. October 6th, Yuan Shikai elected president of China. October 10th, last obstruction to water removed from the Panama Canal by the blowing up of the Gamboa Dike. November 3rd, Otto, the Mad King of Bavaria, was deposed and was succeeded by the Prince Regent as Louis III, 1913 through X. December 23rd, currency and banking bill providing for regional banks in the United States signed by the President. 1914, January 18th, the island of Sakura near Kagoshima in Japan devastated by a volcano. January, serious railroad and mining strikes in South Africa. Syndicalism arrayed against the state, suppressed by the firm measures of Premier Botha. April 21st, United States fleet seized Custom House at Veracruz, Mexico, and Navy and Marines occupied the city for the purpose of exacting an apology from President Huerta for the arrest of United States bluejackets. American losses, 18 killed and 70 wounded. April 25th, the diplomatic representatives of Argentina, Brazil, and Chile at Washington offered the services of their respective governments in mediation between the United States and Mexico. The offer was accepted by the United States. May 25th, Irish Home Rule Bill passed the British House of Commons by a vote of 351 to 274, in spite of threats of armed resistance in Ulster, and trouble among army officers who agreed to resign if ordered to attack the Ulster men. Resignation of Sir John French, Chief of Imperial Staff, not accepted. The bill, having passed the Commons in 3 sessions of Parliament, became law without the approval of the Lords. Continued disturbances in Protestant Ulster under the leadership of Sir Edward Carson. Large importations of arms smuggled into the country. Nationalist volunteers organized in opposition to the Ulster Volunteers. July 6th, House of Lords passed to its second reading by a vote of 273 to 10 the Home Rule Amending Bill, providing that each county of Ulster shall decide by vote whether or not it shall be excluded from the operation of the Home Rule Act for a period of 6 years. Later, the House of Lords passed Unionist amendments not acceptable to the Commons. Riot at Dublin, July 26, in which troops fired upon nationalists and killed 4 persons. June 24th, protocol signed at Niagara, Canada by American and Mexican delegates sitting with the mediators. It provided for a provisional government of Mexico to be constituted by agreement of Huerta's representatives and the insurgent Constitutionalist Party, and the United States agreed to waive claims for war indemnity or other international satisfaction, and to recognize the provisional government. The mediators then adjourned. July 5th, Huerta was elected president of Mexico by a large majority of a very small vote. July 15th, Huerta resigned presidency of Mexico and was succeeded by Minister of Foreign Affairs Carbajal, who, according to an understanding with the mediators, was to resign in favor of a constitutionalist. The constitutionalist forces, under Carranza as president and Villa as commanding general, in control of the greater part of Mexico. June 28th, Archduke Francis Ferdinand, heir presumptive to the throne of Austria-Hungary, and his morganatic wife, the Duchess of Hohenberg, assassinated at Sarajevo, Bosnia, by a Serb student, a native of Bosnia. Austria-Hungary accused Serbia of fomenting conspiracies against the internal tranquility of the dual monarchy, and July 23rd sent her an ultimatum, Serbia's reply to which, July 25th, being deemed unsatisfactory. July 28th, Austria-Hungary declared war against Serbia, and July 29th bombarded Belgrade. July 31st, Russia proclaimed a general mobilization. Stock markets of the world closed. August 1st, Germany declared war against Russia. France ordered a general mobilization for the next day. Discount in London raised to 10%, highest in the history of the Bank of England. August 2nd, hostilities on border between Germany and France. August 3rd, Italy declared her neutrality on the ground that her treaty of alliance with Germany and Austria did not require her to assist them in an offensive war. Germany violated the neutrality of Luxembourg, promising indemnity. August 4th, Germany asked Belgium to allow her troops to cross Belgian territory. Belgium refused and Germany began an invasion. German troops also invaded Russia. August 5th, Germany, having refused to respect the neutrality of Belgium after a demand from England, England declared war on Germany. Germany attacked Liège and Namur. August 6th, President Wilson offered the services of the United States in mediation between the warring nations of Europe. August 7th, heavy fighting at Liège between Germans and Belgians. Discount in London cut to 6%. August 8th, discount in London further cut to 5%. August 9th, Liège occupied by the Germans, but the outlying forts not taken. August 10th, France and Austria severed diplomatic relations. August 13th, England formally declared war on Austria. August 13th, President Carbajal and his cabinet, together with the federal forces, having left the City of Mexico the night before, a formal peace agreement was signed between General Obregon for the Constitutionalists and Eduardo Iturbe, governor of the Federal District, preliminary to the entrance of Carranza and his followers into the city. August 15th, the Panama Canal officially opened. August 16th, Japan sent an ultimatum to Germany demanding the evacuation of Kiao Chau and allowing 1 week for a reply. End of section 101. End of the World's Story Volume 14, An Outline of Universal History by Karl Ploetz, translated by William H. Tillinghast.